Laura, would you mind giving us a quick intro of yourself and your channel and what you focus on?
Yes, of course. My name is Laura Hoyda, and I live in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. And I started my YouTube channel about 5 years ago as a way to connect with other moms. I became a stay-at-home mom, and I just needed an outlet creatively, and also I wanted to connect with other moms who were making content and consuming content, and just as a way to be social in a fairly isolating situation, being at home in a new city at that time. So I started making videos about the new city that I was living in, which was Vancouver, BC. As I explored it, I made the videos. And I also talked about my personal life, my mom life, and used it as a bit of a video journal for myself. So it's been slow growing because I had a hard time finding a niche at the beginning, and I did want to use it as a journal. But I've had a lot of fun with it, and it has grown to a point where I have some business opportunities, and that's a lot of fun too. Even though I still feel very playful in the space, I'm having a lot of fun exploring different opportunities that it is now bringing me, which is awesome.
So tell us a little bit about what type of content you are creating, pre-corona situation, and what are you doing now, post-corona and where we are.
So I did have to pivot. That's a very overused word right now, I think. But I was right before Corona started. I noticed that my travel content was doing really well on my channel. And I had kind of fought against doing travel content because as a stay-at-home mom, my travel opportunities are limited, until I had this brainwave that, hey, I could travel in and around the suburbs close to me that I have yet to explore because I'm fairly new to the area. And I could document what city life is like and suburban life in these different little enclaves around me. And I thought that would be a great way to show this area to the rest of the world, because most of the videos that were available at that time were all these extreme top 10 things to do in the city, but not a lot of them talked about what it was actually like to live there, what the cost of living was like, what it was like to be a mom in those cities. So I started a little series, an episodic series called Travel at Home Mom. And each week I went out and I did a different part of the area that I am living in. So that's what I was doing right before Corona started. And I started to work with some realtors in the area, and I was having a lot of fun. And they were able to show me inside the properties that were in the area. And then all of a sudden, like a ton of bricks, this happened, and I had to go back to a former style of content that I was making, which was my video diaries of my life as a mom. And I actually welcomed that switch because it's very when you have a personal brand, it's very easy to shift gears when your life changes. Unlike other niches where you have to really dig deep to find how you could make it work, for me, it was pretty simple, and I'm very grateful for that. And my audience just continued basically to follow along, which was nice.
And so do you have interactions with your audiences?
I do. I pride myself that I've answered every single comment on my YouTube channel to date, except for the ones that are, probably bots or whatever, because what's the point? But I love that part of YouTube. I love how social it is. Yeah. It truly is a social media that way, that you can actually develop relationships with people in the comment section. And other platforms I can't seem to connect with as much personally because of the inability to have that relationship. So that's why I love YouTube. Yes, it's a great search engine, and yes, your videos will live on in an evergreen content kind of way, and that's really satisfying to build something there. But also, it is one of the few platforms that has a really good community building aspect for it.
Right. And, before we go deeper, has anyone been affected by Corona in your family or your friends or anyone? So I just wanted to check in. Is everyone okay? Is your family okay?
Fortunately, touch wood, everyone is fine. I haven't been personally affected. My husband is a surgeon, so he is not on the front lines, but he is right in the thick of it with it. Yeah. And no, we have been very lucky, and our whole area has been quite lucky for some reason unknown to me. But fortunately, we are in a good spot right now. So that's good.
Yeah, and please give my thanks to your husband, and also I think the entire community as well, right? I think sometimes we underappreciate people And I
Yeah.
think finally we're realizing the frontline workers, the doctors, the nurses, the ambulance people, everyone, right? I mean, people at the grocery stores.
Exactly.
I think this will definitely, it will change our perspectives on people, I think, and professions.
Oh,
I truly believe that.
I do too. Yeah, and I think it's very refreshing. That part of the priority shift that way has been nice. I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to see how it unfolds for these people doing the brunt of the work. But
And
yeah,
how long have you been under home and shelter in Vancouver?
for us, this is around day 45, I believe. Yeah.
And
So and that is not, we self-imposed a little bit of a lockdown before that. So for ourselves, just we quarantined a couple of days earlier than the city, but it's around 40 to 45.
so your kids are home. Has your routine changed
Definitely
in
have.
this time of crisis? Your kids are more home, or
Yes.
what's new?
Exactly. Yeah, they are home, and my daughter was going to a preschool daycare a few times a week, and my son was in grade 1, and so they're both home. Fortunately, I feel like at their age, it's hasn't been a bumpy transition. It's been pretty smooth. They actually enjoy being at home, and it's just the normal things to figure out. And keeping, that's something I've been turning my mind to recently, is keeping their mental health well when we have the ability to pick up the phone and chat with whoever we want to, but they don't. And so it's harder for them to express as well when they're feeling isolated and lonely. So I've been trying to turn my mind to that, but definitely our routine has changed, not as much as other people, because I was not working outside of the home.
Are you allowed to step outside the home and your area in Vancouver?
Yes, we're allowed to go for walks. Some of the parks have been closed and some of them reopened, but we're allowed to walk and encouraged to get out and have some fresh air. So and a lot of the non-essential businesses have remained open as well with social distancing guidelines. So in terms of global impact, we have not had the most stringent lockdown, fortunately.
Nice. And thankfully for us as well, in San Francisco, we were one of the first cities to have a lockdown. So it's relatively flattened up. I just heard that they might still extend the lockdown until end of May. Just to be on the safer side. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Yes. Yeah,
So
I think we have to think about what it's going to look like when they do lift the restrictions, if it's going to even be any different. But
so, prior to COVID, did you have any brand partnerships, or did you work with any brands in particular with your content?
So from time to time, I don't have a steady, as years have gone by, I've had certain waves, I would say, of interest in my channel, and times where there's been little to no interest. So it comes and goes. And before this, I had kind of told myself I wasn't going to be doing just the one-off things that came into my inbox anymore.
Yeah.
I had been building a media kit, and my intention was, after I'd finished the series of my travel show, that I would then step out and ask travel partners if they wanted to partner with me on doing a second season. So I was kind of using my first season of this episodic series to build something that I could really attract brands with, because up until this year, I didn't have a media kit and I didn't have any offer for brands, basically.
Has the process of creating a video, is that easy, difficult, or use your phone, or you have a camera, or how hard or easy has it been for you making the content?
I like the technology. The hardest part is securing the resources, not bringing in an income. And my husband was a medical student and then a resident, so we were living with low resources. If I could have any shopping spree at any place in the world, it would definitely be to a camera store to get a camera. But at the same time, I learned that storytelling is most important, and the camera that you choose. I mean, the iPhone cameras are so good right now, but I have a couple of cameras that I really enjoy using, and slowly I have built things over time into my, my toolbox of what I use, and that has worked really well. So it wasn't an overnight thing where I just sort of ordered everything one night and started to work. I built it slowly, and that worked well for me. And I don't find the technology difficult to use at all. The only thing I find difficult about the whole process is carving out enough time to creatively be satisfied in what I'm making. because my main thing really is being a stay-at-home mom, and I don't have enough hours in the day to put in for what I would want to have my channel be if I wasn't doing that.
And given the constraints right now on travel, are you pretty much you're doing more home videos with your kids and how to play with kids and keep them busy and those kind of what I'm curious, what kind of content are you focusing on now?
Well, I used to make videos about my life as a mom. I really enjoy watching, like, basically it's like a reality TV sort of thing. The mom YouTube community has been almost living the quarantine life for a long time and just making videos inside their home. And I was part of that. So I made cleaning videos and videos about child rearing and food and all of those kind of things. So I just sort of went back to that old style of video that I was making before, which I enjoy consuming that content and creating it. So there is a lot of there's a big niche on YouTube of people who just make homemaking videos. And that's sort of where I went to.
Got it. And we're seeing a lot of brands being very empathetic about their messaging, and I'm curious, have you seen any advertisement or anything on TV or that you're like, wow, this brand really did a great job? And has your personal messaging changed in terms of how you're conveying your making your videos and your message on at this time of crisis?
That's interesting. Thinking about who's doing a good job. Well, I kind of
or anything that just stuck with you. Cleaning products have been this. I just saw an ad about toilet paper and asking people to just I think it was one of the big toilet paper brands sharing that there's enough toilet paper, so don't hoard. There's no need to hoard. So I think it's a good message. It just calms your nerves, right? So.
Well, yeah, and they've had to shift gears so quickly. I think, I think Peloton actually, is they're very low key but they had that one ad which was so abrasive at the beginning where the woman did not want the Peloton, and then I saw so many funny memes and other things being shared about, I guess she's happy with that bike now, because they really had a great timing of it all. I think timing is really critical. I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins, and I follow him on Twitter. And when it first came, when COVID was sort of first coming on my radar, or shortly thereafter, he was posting, it seemed like predated Twitter posts. So he probably had scheduled them in, I would assume. And they were talking about, is your life feeling slow? Is your life in the slow lane? I thought it was so off key, because at that point in time, information was coming at us so quickly, and our life had changed so rapidly that thinking about living it slowly was hilarious. So he then subsequently changed his messaging, but I feel like timing really, people had to be really quick. And the brands that were very quick to be fluid are the ones that I think will, be the best. Survive, yeah. And the ones that continue to provide value and as well. Also, I find for me, two main themes. One, self-reliance. So brands that allow you to have something that you can take home and do at home with you, and allow you to further your self-reliance is great. Like Peloton, now you can bring the gym to your home and you don't need a gym membership. And then the other thing is local and sustainable and ecologically friendly. I feel like we're all waking up to this reality that we do live in this ecosystem on the globe, and that maybe we need to be more cognizant of our shopping being local, especially for me in Canada. We really never before have I felt more Canadian, and now that our borders are closed, everyone's sort of hunkered down. You feel like, wow, I never even turned my mind to the fact that we were outsourcing our consumables for so long, just chasing what was cheap and flashy and fun. Right. And now I'm more connected with brands that are local, ethical, sustainable, so that we can support our communities that we live in.
I think this will change the supply chain for sure. I think I think farmers market are more important than ever, right?
Yes, exactly. Farmers market for everything.
for everything. And I think it's sort of a wake up call for all of us, right? In many ways.
Right.
So yeah.
I felt
and then
that.
I'm curious, have you collaborated with any other creators, or have you had that request? Hey, let's do something together.
I have. Nothing is in the works right now, but I actually find that Instagram is a way that is a platform that really allows me to connect best with creators because of the direct messaging there. So all of my YouTube connections I also have on Instagram, and we connect there. I would say that collaborations almost come in the form more of allegiances now. And so if you say on Instagram, my friend with this YouTube channel has this video you should go check out, that pulls a lot of weight. It transfers your audience over to theirs. And I feel like the collaborations on YouTube are thinner now than they were before, just because it can be a bit awkward to do that in the homemaking niche. But there so I haven't personally done any recently, but I do have, I would say, my allies that I connect with and are helpful to building my business, just not in the form of video collaborations at this moment.
Got it. And are you comfortable having your kids in the videos? And I presume they watch videos as well, and they enjoy videos as well?
They do. So it's always, that was a big thing this past year is consent with children online.
Right.
And I think with the whole COPPA issue, what that really brought to light as well is that now our devices that we have at home, our laptops, our TVs, our phones are shared devices. So the problem was that kids were logging on to YouTube from a device that possibly wasn't theirs. So if I'm trying to have this phone call and I pass my phone to my 6-year-old, he's now on my YouTube platform watching 6-year-old shows. And YouTube didn't have a way to age gate that necessarily. Right. So there was a big problem with people who were aiming shows at kids and then collecting. Anyways, so I think what that did alert a lot of people in my space too was consent with children, and can they really consent to being on camera? And I found like I've never had my children be the focus of my videos. They are in the background part of the videos, but they're more part of the ecosystem of my video. And that way I feel good about using my voice. I think it's important that we are still not silencing the parental voices as well. So I have them as sort of background features, and I show my son, if he wants to see the videos, what it is. And if he's part of it, like if I'm really showing him, I'll show him exactly what it is and say, can I put this in my video? Knowing he's not of the age of consent, but just for that informal two-way communication. And if ever they didn't want to be in the videos, I can easily take them down. That's a great thing about YouTube, is that on your platform, you have the control of whether or not you can take them down. And I've never allowed them to be in any other people's videos for that reason, because ultimately I would not be able to control their image there. I also think it's just impractical to think that we can live without, video documentation. I think the importance of having their memories documented trumps the fears that I have about them being exposed online. So it's a very personal thing, but my husband and I, this was the biggest hurdle to me starting a channel, and we hashed it out and came to a good place, and we continue to be there. If you had a wish list of tools or something that you are like, I wish, is there something on top of your mind that you wish you could do on YouTube or any of the social media channels, or in terms of how brands communicate with you or how you communicate with brand? Is there anything on your wish list? Yeah, I think I like on Instagram how you can tag a brand in the photo. If you could tag a brand right at the video point, because if I tag a brand in my 20-minute video and they are only there for a second, it's unlikely that they'll be able to scour that or want to scour that to find that. So if I could tag at the point, a link to the product as well, as that would be amazing. And I know I've heard from time to time that these things might be available. But it would really help making long form content and more consumable and more attractive, I think, probably to brands.
We're doing, and it's a great point you bring up, because that's actually one of our goals, is to make the video searchable.
Yes.
Product, or your smile, or emotions, or certain keywords, right? Or perhaps the background scene, indoor, outdoor, and all of that, right? So, and then how about in any particular method you prefer in how brands reach out to you, or would like, or how you would like them to reach out to you? Do you prefer email, IG message, Facebook message, or what's your preferred method?
I've only ever been emailed or Instagram or IG messaged, I guess. I prefer email, and I prefer to be straightforward. If you've never watched a video, I would prefer if you didn't say, I love your videos, because I get that quite a bit. It almost sounds like it's from a Nigerian prince, most of the emails I get. So if it's personalized, but it doesn't have to be that person. You could have never watched a video of mine. That's fine. As long as it's a bit an honest sort of personal email.
So, after, when all of this Corona ends, do you expect just to go back to your travel videos and your at home, mom videos, or are you thinking something else as well in future?
I'm always just riding the wave, I think. So I'm mostly going to see where it goes. I think of my channel as a personal journal, in that I'll keep making videos till I'm 90, whatever floats my boat. So I think that I will just go with the flow. I think I kind of have a meta view of YouTube and the internet as being just the hive mind. And, tapping into what is important for us all at the moment, and then having it as a point of connection, a touch point for people. So that's sort of where... And
to be honest, that's what happened, right? I mean, the reason video conferencing went up the last 4 or 5 weeks is that need to connect and see someone in person, right? I mean, even though I can't touch my significant other or my relatives or my family, but just making sure just to see them in a video, just to make sure they're okay and they're alive and be able to talk, right? I think that makes a huge difference. And I think more than ever, people are appreciating this technology that we have for video conferencing. Even I did not have as much appreciation as I do now.
I agree. I don't think
that we have the bandwidth, and we live in countries where this is possible. Just to have this live dialogue, right? It's still
I don't see us ever going back to just straight phone calling people, really.
I know, right?
Yeah. I mean, especially when you have the heads up of giving a meeting invitation, I think it's a great system. Coming from someone who is fairly isolated as a stay-at-home mom, and I know that it's possible to have real connections virtually. I've been doing this for 5 years, and I've met real friends who will be my forever friends just virtually. We've never met in real life, but I know them because of our virtual connections.
Right.
And I know people are skeptical. They have been skeptical of that, and being not wanting to enter the virtual world because they still think there's some part of it that's phony. But I think that's if at least personally, I feel like I've made real connections and socialized fully just virtually. So.
We found that as well, is that video is very trustworthy because you can see the person.
Yes.
And then it's fake. It's hard to fake this.
Yes.
There will always be fake videos created after, but it's impossible to fake a live conversation if you see what I'm saying.
Exactly.
And so I think, and I mean, look at us, right? I mean, I'm in San Francisco, you're in Vancouver, and I think to your point, we can connect. I mean, I touch base with my family around the world pretty much, and which is interesting is, what makes this crisis very global is that we're all in the same place. Rich, poor, country, doesn't matter. Whether you're a celebrity, doesn't matter. We're all stuck in our homes, and it is what it is, right? And for the first time, I think we're also discovering people through their backgrounds as well, right? I mean, you're seeing a lot of even celebrities in their homes, or even news anchors, right? You have never seen their homes before.
Yes.
And it's interesting. Like it makes you more vulnerable. I think it makes you more touchable, if you will, in a way.
Yes, and I think it strengthens the connection that you have with people too. Like now you think of newsrooms and you're kind of like, well, that was really phony. If they're trying to present, it actually makes more sense for them to be sitting at home presenting the news. So I've welcomed it, but it's because I love this space of us all connecting personally as people without the middleman. So I think that people are worried in my space that celebrities are going to come and take over the space, and there won't be any room for the little people, the everyday Joes.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's true, because it takes someone who wants to consistently put their real life online to make a go of it, and that's not necessarily what celebrity is. It's it's a very different format. So
you're absolutely. I think actually I heard the other way around, which is more and more micro-influencers and macro-influencers and people like yourself who create authentic content and more organic content, based on how you feel and how you see the world and how you see your family and the things around you, right? I think it's more important, because at the end of the day, if I'm buying a product or if I'm engaging with anything, an experience, I care more about what people like me are talking about the experience of the product versus a celebrity. Right. A celebrity only goes so far. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to see people like you having the same experience. And I think that's why, I think one trend we're seeing right now is a lot of text reviews are moving towards video. Amazon has just launched a new store where you can watch videos and buy products.
Right.
And that's because the trust, to your point, I think you said this before, is the trustworthiness with video. You can see the product, you can see the emotions, you can see the brand name perhaps in the background or on the product, right? It makes it more realistic versus something that's in text where you're not even sure if the person had the product or not. So I think video definitely is game changing. So one last question: what message do you have for everyone who's out there who's watching this video? What's your message for us?
What's my message? I think that, expect a lot of positive changes. Expect there to be a lot of growth. We are I think a lot of people are collectively grieving the loss of what we had before, which is normal.
Yeah.
But I think that out of the ashes, beautiful things grow. And so I think if you turn your mind to what amazing things we can potentially build out of this environment, you can really find a source of optimism that you can latch onto. And I think if you continue to think about providing value through video form or whatever your medium is, and just continue to think about providing value, there's always going to be a value to provide to a consumer. And you might not see where the marketability is, but if you can continue to focus on the value, then there's a lot to be hopeful for.
Okay, well, that's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.